On July 18th, 1984, a McDonald's in San Diego, California, a place that for most of us is all about family joy and happy meals, became the setting for one of the darkest chapters in American history. What happened inside over the next 77 minutes wouldn't just shatter a community, it would completely rewrite the rules for how police respond to a killer on the loose.
I mean, think about it. For decades, McDonald's has been the symbol of American family life. Back in the 80s, it was the ultimate treat, right? The go-to spot for birthday parties, for a celebration after a Little League game, just a simple, happy place. It was supposed to be filled with laughter. But on that hot July afternoon, all those familiar, happy sounds of a neighborhood restaurant were just shattered by absolute chaos and terror. A place that was practically synonymous with childhood innocence was about to be stained by unimaginable bloodshed.
And this is where it gets really chilling. These are the words James Huberty spoke to his wife, Edna, as he walked out of their apartment. She apparently just brushed it off, thinking it was just another one of his strange, dark comments. She had no idea how tragically wrong she was.
You know, what's so disturbing about that day is how utterly normal it all started. Before heading to that McDonald's, Huberty actually took his wife and daughters to the San Diego Zoo. They had lunch, they walked around, they went home. There was absolutely no outward sign of the massacre he was planning to unleash. So they get back home, and then Huberty arms himself with a 9mm pistol, an Uzi, and a shotgun. He then walks right into the nearby McDonald's on San Ysidro Boulevard. The restaurant was packed with almost 50 people, customers, staff, and that's when his rampage began.
So you have to ask yourself, what brings a person to this point? To even begin to understand what led to this moment, we have to take a look at the man behind the gun. Who was James Huberty, really? And what could possibly drive him to do something so monstrous?
Well, if you look at Huberty's life, it's really this story of a slow, painful downward spiral. For a while, he was a successful, skilled welder back in Ohio, providing a good, stable life for his family. But when those big industrial jobs started to dry up in the late 70s, everything started to unravel. His job disappeared, and with it, his whole sense of purpose. They moved to California, hoping for a fresh start, but it just ended in another failure when he was fired from a security job. That seemed to be the final straw. And believe me, the warning signs were flashing bright red, and they were getting worse. He was a survivalist, totally convinced that society was about to collapse. He told his wife he was hearing voices. He even said he'd called a mental health clinic for help, but they never called him back. His mental state was just crumbling, and he was becoming a man who felt like he had absolutely nothing left to lose.
Okay, so let's go back to that McDonald's, where Huberty's private demons have just exploded into a very public and very real nightmare. 77 minutes. Just think about that for a second. For over an hour, Huberty held that entire restaurant hostage to his violence. And as he fired shot after shot, police were gathering outside, setting up a perimeter. But they were following the rules of the time. You wait, you do not go in. And he was just relentless. He fired more than 250 rounds of ammunition, moving methodically through the restaurant, shooting anyone he could see. And the layout of the building was a death trap. There was really only one main exit for customers, so dozens of people were trapped inside with him.
When the shooting finally stopped, the cost was just unimaginable. 21 innocent people were dead. 19 others were wounded. Huberty himself was the 22nd person to die. And the victims? They were men, women, and so many children. Among the dead were an 8-month-old baby and a pregnant woman. The average age of the youngest victims was just 11 years old.
So the big question is, why did it take so long? Well, the police were literally following the rule book for a hostage situation. Like a bank robbery. They were trained to contain the area and wait for the gunman to make his demands. But here's the thing. Huberty had no demands. His only goal was to kill as many people as possible. Finally, after those 77 agonizing minutes, a SWAT team sniper who was positioned on a roof nearby got a clear shot. He fired once, hitting Huberty in the chest and killing him instantly. And just like that, the terror was over.
But the story doesn't end there. The impact of what happened that day, it's huge. And in the aftermath, you start to see these incredible stories of survival, profound loss,
and ultimately, real lasting change.
In the middle of all that horror, you find these unbelievable stories of survival. There was a father with his 3 young sons trapped inside. He had the presence of mind to tell them to play dead. And for the entire 77 minutes, that family lay perfectly still on the floor, surrounded by the massacre, and somehow they survived unharmed. It's just a stunning testament to the will to live.
Once they finally got inside, what the officers saw, they could only describe it as a war zone. The whole community was deeply scarred. In an attempt to somehow erase this painful memory, the McDonald's Corporation tore the building down and gave the land to the city. Today, a community college campus and a quiet memorial stand where that restaurant once was.
And this is maybe the most important legacy of San Ysidro. The massacre forced a fundamental, life-saving change in how American law enforcement responds to these kinds of active threats. Those 77 minutes of waiting outside, it was seen as a catastrophic failure. Something had to change.
And you can see the change right here, crystal clear. Before San Ysidro, the strategy was contain and negotiate. You secure the perimeter, you wait for demands. But after San Ysidro, that playbook was thrown out. The new protocol is all about immediate entry. Officers are not trained to form a team, move directly toward the sound of gunfire, and confront the threat as fast as possible to save lives.
And let's be clear, this change didn't just happen in a vacuum. It was driven by pure public outrage. People all over the country couldn't believe that police had waited outside while people were being murdered. That immense pressure is what forced law enforcement agencies to completely rethink their entire approach.
So, in the end, the legacy of San Ysidro leaves us with this really tough question that first responders still face every single day. How do you balance the incredible risk of taking immediate action against the terrible cost of waiting? That day in 1984 redefined how we think about that risk, teaching us all a brutal lesson that in an active massacre, sometimes the greatest danger of all doesn't lie in acting, but in waiting.